I wanted to make a video about charity because this is one of the most important concepts that any person who considers himself a Muslim should understand. It is such an important concept that God mentions it over and over in the Quran. As a matter of fact, God uses this concept when defining those who believe, those who are the doers of good, those who are Muslims, and those who are believers. So, for example, at the very beginning, God says, this book, there is no doubt in it, is a guide for those who are careful of their duty. Those who believe in the unseen and keep up prayer and give out of what we have given them. So there, charity is used as one of the defining characteristics. In chapter 3, verse 92, God says, by no means will you achieve piety, and the word here is birra. By no means will you achieve piety until you give out of what you love. So, I mean, all of us are sick to a certain extent with love of money. We love wealth, and that's why we work so hard for it. So, by no means can you achieve piety, can you achieve goodness until you give out of that. And it just keeps it's just constantly repeated as a quality to strive to. For example, in chapter 3, verse 133, God says, and hurry toward the forgiveness of your Lord and the gardens, the expanse of which is heavens and the earth. And your Lord has prepared them for those who are careful of their duty. Those who give in prosperity and adversity and suppress anger and forgive people. So again, charity is described as a quality for those who are careful of their duty, the muttaqeen. They not only give when they have, but they also make it a point that they give even the little that they have in prosperity and adversity. So, and it keeps going on. In chapter 25, when God describes the servants of the Most Gracious, God says, and those who when they give are neither extravagant nor stingy, but they follow a path in between. So that is one of the, I mean, again, it confirms that the servants of the God are those who give charity, and then that kind of describes how much to give, you know. Not too much and not too little. And that is confirmed in chapter 17. When God describes wisdom, he says, and do not keep your hand shackled to your neck, nor outstretch it to its limits, lest you sit down despised and stripped off. So don't give away everything that you have, you know, but follow a path in between. And it just keeps getting repeated. I'll give a couple more examples, and I want to give all these examples because when something is repeated so often, that is how you know that it is very important. When we want somebody to do something, and when it's very important to us, we make sure that they know that it's important. So we repeat it often. That's how we know. If something is unimportant to you, you can just say it once because you don't care if it's going to happen or not. But when something is really important, you want somebody to really do something, you make sure you tell them, then you make sure you remind them. So a couple more examples. God in chapter 2, verse 254, God says, O you who believe, spend out of what we have given you before a day comes in which there will be no bargaining, neither any mutual befriending, nor intercession. And the unbelievers, they are the unjust. So God says, you know, give out of what we have given you before you die. And then the last example I'm going to say, so in chapter 74, verses 42 to 45, God says, basically it's talking about people who are in hell will be asked, what has brought you into hell? And they will answer, we were not of those who prayed, and we did not feed the poor, and we talked vanities with the vain talkers until death came to us. So basically it shows right there, you know, the people in hell, they will give just three main reasons why they ended up in hell. Number one, they did not pray. And I already made a video about prayer and how important it is. Number 2, they did not feed the poor. And then they spent their life just talking useless, engaged in useless conversations, discussions. This in our era, that can be, you can just define it as watching like reality TV shows, because that literally does nothing. It's just gossip on a big screen. So, but the one I wanted to highlight is they did not feed the poor. So that is how important charity is. Okay. So who should we give charity to? In all honesty, one should start with their own family. If you have family that needs charity and you're giving it somewhere else, then who's going to give to your family? You always have to start with your own family, okay? And that is definitely supported in the Quran. So God says in the Quran, in verse 17, in chapter 17, verse 26, and give to the relatives their due, and the needy and the traveler, and do not squander it wastefully. So give to the traveler. This is repeated in chapter 30, verse 38. Give to the relatives their due, and the needy and the traveler. This is best for those who desire God's pleasure. And these it is that are successful. In other verses, God kind of broadens the categories that of the people that are to get charity. So God in in chapter 9, verse 60, God says, charity is for the poor and the needy, and those who collect the charities, and those whose hearts are to be reconciled, and those who are captive, and those in debts and in the way of God, and the traveler. This is a law from God, and God is knowing and wise. So there are several categories of these people that are deserving of charities. Those who collect charities being one of them. When you really think about it, I know that a lot of people, especially these days, a lot of charities are so corrupt that it's very, very difficult to accept and easily give without, fear that the funds will be misused. And I share that concern as well. But when somebody makes charity their life's duty, their purpose, they can't work for themselves. So the charity is for them as well. They are to be paid out of those funds. Basically, poor people, relatives, those basically is a traveler. That could be a refugee. It's not just somebody that's coming on a vacation. These are refugees, people who are exiled from their land. So you're supposed to help them out of charity as well. And of course, people who are imprisoned because they are Muslims, because they believe in God. You are supposed to pay their ransom, and this was applicable in their time, and it is applicable in our time as well, except it's a little bit more complicated because of the global world we live in now. But those are the people that charity goes to. Again, it starts with your own parents. There's also another verse that I can't really remember at this point, and it talks about recognizing those who are deserving of charities, and one of their characteristics was they do not beg of people inopportunely. So there's a lot of drug addicts and stuff that do beg, and this is one of the problems why it's hard to give charity. But there are people who aren't begging who need it, and it is your job to pay attention and to realize that they actually need help. It is our job. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Now, one of the most important things to understand is how to give, okay? And I'm actually going to add a video link in the description of this video to a video called I Am Not a Bum. This is about, it's a 5-minute video that everybody should watch about a homeless person in Chicago explaining how he feels. And so keep that in mind when you hear, watch that video, and keep the following verses in mind. God says in chapter 2, verse 262 to 264, those who spend their wealth in the cause of God and do not follow up what they spend with reminders of their generosity nor hurt, their reward is with their Lord. They shall have no fear, nor shall they grieve. Kind words and forgiveness of faults are better than charity, sadaqah, followed by hurt, followed by insult. And God is free of all wants, most forbearing. O you who believe, do not make your charity worthless by reminders of your generosity nor hurt, like he who spends his wealth to be seen of people and does not believe in God nor in the last day. His example is like an example of a rock with a little bit of dirt on it, and a rain falls and leaves it bare, and they will have nothing out of what they have earned. And God does not guide the disbelieving people. So the mannerisms in which we give charity are extremely important. So if you're going to give, don't make people feel like crap because you gave it to them. You're not buying their dignity. You have no right to take their dignity away. It is hard enough to be poor. It is hard enough to need help. They don't need your criticism. They don't need your insults. They don't need to hear how generous you are and how great you are compared to them. If you're going to do that, you don't need to give nothing. Keep your money. Keep your money, because it's going to be better for you and for them. This is what God says. Kind words and forgiveness of faults. If somebody is pissing you off, if you don't think somebody should be begging, whatever the case may be, don't give them anything. But give them a word of encouragement, or just give them a nod or a smile. Don't criticize them. Don't make them feel like crap. That is an order from God, and this you have to obey. So, it's a very simple concept. A lot of times we forget about it, but it's very important to keep that in mind, because a lot of times people are predisposed to doing that. That's why this commandment is there. So basically, you are only supposed to be giving this charity. You are seeking God's pleasure, okay? You are not seeking to change the world, and you're not doing anything other than obeying God. And God likes this. That's why you're doing it, okay? So another thing is, when you are giving charity, how should you make it public, or should you hide it? God touches on this. So in chapter 2, verse 271, God says, if you give your charity openly, it's fine. But if you hide it and give it to the poor, it is better for you. And this will do away with some of your evil deeds. And God is aware of what you do. So even if people don't see what you do, and a lot of time that instant gratification for people actually feels good, but like that, you never know if you are giving to be seen of people, or if you are giving to be seen by God only. So if you hide it, then you know only God knows, and then you are sure that your intentions are right. So that's why it's better to hide it. Now, sometimes you just can't hide it, and that's fine. You can still give it. That's good. But to truly know your intentions, to truly be sure of your intentions, you hide it, and then you're good to go. So there's a little more to this, but I want to try to keep this video as short as possible. One more thing that I wanted to mention is what happens when people decide not to do this, not to give charity. And that is mentioned in the in chapter oh man, I forget what chapter it is, but it's in chapter 9, verse 75 to 77. God says, and then there are those who said, if God gives us out of his mercy, most surely we will give charity, sadaqah, and most surely we will be doers of good. Yet when he gave them out of his mercy, they turned back and were averse. So he made hypocrisy to follow in their hearts until the day they shall meet him. This is because they failed their promise to God. And this is because they lied. So think about that. All of us, when we become Muslims, we basically take an oath. We take on a duty to give charity. And all of us say, if God gives us out of his mercy, we will surely do this. But when we get God's mercy, a lot of times, we get preoccupied, we get busy, we start buying things for ourselves. I always wanted this, I always wanted that. So when you spend the money on yourself first, you are not giving your charity honestly. This is not your money, this is what God gave you. So there is a part of your money that is not yours. And if you are spending it on yourself first, then you won't be able to give your charity honestly. We're all susceptible to this. So you have to be very, very careful. Actually, I don't remember which verse it is, but God uses an example of produce and when to give it. God says, give it at the time of its reaping. So when you are actually harvesting your stuff, you give it right away. And that is how everybody should be giving charity. You decide your charity and you give that before you spend anything on yourself, anything on your bills, anything like that. Your charity is a duty that you have toward God, so you are supposed to do that. So those people who don't do that, who fail their duty to God, again, God just turns their hearts. And why? Because they failed in their duty. I already explained how big of a duty charity is. You have to do this. Without this, you're done. You're not going to be successful. So if you fail your promise to God and you lied that this is what you're actually going to do, and then God gave you this and you didn't do it, you can't lie to God. You can lie to me. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to the world. You can lie to everybody else, but you cannot lie to God. He will just turn your heart and you will fail. And the last thing I wanted to mention is a verse that I find very scary. And it is chapter 9, verse 79. And it says, those who criticize the believers who give their charity freely, and those who do not find anything to give except their effort, so they ridicule them, God will pay them back their ridicule, and they will have a painful punishment. Ask forgiveness for them, or do not ask forgiveness for them, or ask forgiveness for them, even if you ask forgiveness from them 70 times. And this is talking to Prophet Muhammad. God will not forgive them. This is because they disbelieve in God and his messenger, and God does not guide the people who are defiantly disobedient. So even if the Prophet asks forgiveness for these people 70 times, God will not forgive them. So you have to be careful when you are dealing with this concept. So those who give their charity freely, and those who cannot find anything to give except their effort, and then you decide to criticize them. This person is doing this person is doing that. You have to be careful not to do that. You cannot ridicule people for how much charity they give, how little charity they give. Just stay away from that topic. Think the best of your people and stay away from that topic altogether. On a personal level, just don't talk about it. Don't say this person never gives anything. All they do is spend on themselves or whatever. Because think about it. If God says that charity is better to be given hidden, if you are doing that, as you're supposed to, you're going to look like you're never giving any charity to anybody. So to criticize these people, man, you are picking up a great sin, and you can't recover from that. So this topic in particular, criticizing people for their charity, lack of charity, whatever, you have to be very, very careful. My suggestion is help each other to stay away from that topic altogether. And you know, I would hope if any of my friends hear me doing this, because it's a very easy topic to get into. And if any of my friends hear me doing this, I hope they stop me. I hope they just really just stop me from sliding, you know, going down that road, because nobody can help you if you do that, you know. I'm sure, you know, we're going to make mistakes, but it is our job to help each other and not allow each other to do this, you know. But if you fall in that pattern of that behavior and you just never feel bad about it, you keep doing it, you're done. You cannot be helped. Nobody can help you. So this is a very important topic. I hope I have explained it to a certain extent adequately. It's a start, and you know, the video is already 20 minutes long, so I'm just going to stop here. And if anybody has any questions about charity, I would always be happy to answer any questions. If you guys want to comment or anything, it would help everybody, I think, because we're all trying to do the right thing. So good luck and peace.